name is Ken Spivey, and welcome once again to Time Lord Fest 2014. Are you having a good time? Yeah! This is by far the best turnout we've had, and there's a chance that next year we're talking about maybe expanding or even having 2 next year. Yeah. If you enjoyed it, well, thank you. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've lost many nights of sleep working on this. I have with me today a very good friend of mine and a very talented gentleman, Mr. Robert Allsopp. He is a costume and prop maker from Doctor Who. And other things. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other things he did. We'll touch on that briefly, but we're mainly here for what television program? Doctor Who. All right. Well,
Inspector Space Time.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Let's go out there. By the way, you folks standing in the back, there's a little bit of room. If you can scoot over everyone, so that there's a little more space. I see some empty seats. We need a little bit more seating. So everybody scoot over one, and we might have a little bit more space, and make room for people in the back. Everybody can sit down. Has everybody made room? Okay, who has signed up for the costume contest already? Who wants to be in the costume contest?
Yeah! Everybody.
Okay, this is very important. To be in the costume contest, you need to make sure you sign up for it. So either one of my assistants, Remington, she has short black hair, she's wearing all black, she can walk around all day, she has a pad, and so does registration. So you need to go there, give them your name, which category of costume you're wearing, and your email address, just in case you leave and you win by accident or something strange like that happens. And we'll be able to have you in the costume contest, which will take place during the closing ceremonies, which will start a little after 5 and end a little before 7. So all sorts of fun party things, and tons and tons and tons of prizes will be given out. Not just during the costume contest. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff to give away. But for that costume contest, this year we have the actual king of cosplay, the actual costumer herself, Mr. Robert Allsopp, to judge your costume. Now, Mr. Allsopp, what is this gentleman to your right wearing?
He's wearing a Time Lord soldier outfit from the Time War in the 50th show.
Is that actually from the screen?
Pretty much, yeah, I think it is, yeah.
So you're actually wearing Time Lord armor. You know, you're immune slightly to Dalek attack. Well, is that you, John?
Yes.
Oh my. She was. You look great.
Fits my arm.
I was born with it.
So, Robert, tell us first, this is obviously the piece we're talking about first, before your slideshow. Tell us a bit more about the Time Lord armor. What went into making it? What were your thoughts? What your inspiration? What did they tell you?
They told me they're Time Lord soldiers, and I think we talked vaguely about colour scheme, and the fabric, the base fabric, what's known as a stacer fabric, was provided for me. And I kind of referred back to the Chancery Guards from Deadly Assassin and kind of worked forwards from that. And what we'd also done, actually, I've got one here somewhere. Do you want to unwrap that as I speak?
Oh, yes.
So what?
Is it a gun rack?
No.
Oh, right.
So what,
Oh, the helmet.
A little mini gun to necessitate a gun rack. Thank you for getting that.
what you probably wouldn't be aware of, because they were so much in shadow in the show, was that I did an updated version of the Chancery Guards from Deadly Assassin, which were stylistically and colour scheme-wise based very much on the ones that James Atchison had designed that had appeared in all those 70s stories set on Gallifrey. And this was the kind of starting point for these. So we kind of designed this one first, and then tried to make these be the kind of clean ceremonial guys, and then did the kind of rough, dirty, on the battlefield version by taking the crest off, putting a different ear bit on, putting a kind of reinforced brow piece on. So the kind of train of thought was starting with the old 70s Chancery Guard, bringing that up to date, and then doing the kind of more rough and battle-ready version.
So you're a lifelong Whovian, so is this perhaps a boyhood dream to design these specific costumes?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really nice one to do. I knew that they had the Chancery Guards in the script because I had seen some of the script, and I really wanted to redo them because I really liked the designs that had been done in the 70s. And so it was a great opportunity to try and make them a little bit more filmic, a little bit more contemporary, and just bring them up to date, really.
If you could see the Time Lord soldiers used in more episodes, what additions could you see made to the costume for various uses, like deep space travel, perhaps underwater use? Have you given thought? Are there any places where paints could attach for other uses?
Well, I did try to kind of create the impression that there was a bit more to them than is immediately obvious. Like, for example, with these little, there's a little clip either side here, and my kind of intention was to make it look like maybe there's a respirator that could clip on there, and there's a little clip on the front here, and I thought, well, maybe that could be a kind of camera mount. So it was kind of done with trying to give them a bit of a backstory to try and make them a little bit more convincing, really.
Has anyone read the War Doctor novel that was released? Has anyone read that? I haven't read that yet. You have? Yeah. Do they have the Time Lord soldiers in it with their Time Lord armor in the book?
Yeah.
What do they say about them? What do they go any further there? Do you know this?
No, I don't know that one.
Yes. What do they say about the Time Lord armor and what the soldiers do?
I don't know that they go into great detail about it, but they do talk about the fancier hats. It seems like they tend more there because a lot of the action is around Rassilon and the chambers. President, so they're more kind of, I think, like that. What they describe.
Not many writers go into a lot of detail on the costume, really.
Well, if there was a Terrence Dicks novel, he definitely would. He was rather fond of doing that. So he's still around writing one or two things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Allsopp about this amazing bit of costuming? Young gentleman right there.
What's the material for like the actual armor pieces itself?
It's made by a process called vacuum forming, which is fairly well known, and the material is called ABS, which is a fairly tough, back-formable plastic. The main bit of the helmet is fiberglass, but apart from that, pretty much all of it is vacuum formed.
Do you have any of your slides that have to do with the armor, or all of your armor anecdotes just in person?
Well, no, there are slides.
Slides?
So maybe we should
Begin slides, should
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
let's go to the first slide. And what do we have here?
So this was the Tree Lady's attendants from, I think it was the second story of New Who. And I was asked by the costume designer, Lucinda Wright, to come up with these outfits. The makeup is done by Millennium, as is usually the case on Doctor Who. So I just did from the neck down. And as usual, we were quite short on time and quite short on money. So the breastplate was a variation on a mould that I'd acquired that was originally made for a film in the 70s called Krull. And the shoulder pieces originally were something I'd done for an opera. Lucinda provided the fabric that we made the kind of robe out of, and then we painted the armour to try and tie in with that kind of copper and blue brocade sort of look.
And what's the next slide?
It's
Oh,
the same
more
again,
of the same.
just in a little bit more detail. We did a kind of paint technique on the breastplates where you kind of paint them with something and then flick a solvent on them, and it all kind of goes kind of interestingly patinated, hopefully. Also in that story we did the helmets and the costumes for these little blue children.
Did they have a name, the little
I don't remember what they were, I just thought
Smurfs. I was thinking something much more morbid, like the little blue children, like once you leave and it's
Smurfs in space.
I don't know who thought it was a good idea to take a photo where you can only see the backs of their heads.
Oh, it's Space Pig!
Space Piggy!
Space Pig!
Pokey! Pokey Pig!
So as ever, Millennium did the head and I did the body. It was a spacesuit for a pig, really, which was quite a nice thing to do.
Obviously, that's an career piece.
Absolutely. How'd you top that, really?
Okay, and now this is later on in the series, obviously.
This is much later. There was what we call the wilderness years, where I didn't do anything on the show.
And now the Matt Smith era is coming up.
I believe so,
Okay,
yes.
the next slide. And the next slide after that one.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, you know that one then?
That may or may not have been important to the show.
Well, we made a spacesuit, really. That's pretty much. And then this was.
Oh, hold on a second. Before we go to the spacesuit, can you tell me a story that was a duplicate of another spacesuit and why?
Yeah, originally they hired a spacesuit from a company over here, and then they kind of realised that it had got to go into the lake, and you couldn't really take a hired spacesuit and put it in the middle of the lake. So I had to make a copy of the one that had been hired, and my one was used for the vast majority of the filming for that reason.
Instead of reshooting a few scenes with just yours, they had you mimic one completely, which
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
started from scratch, it would have probably been a little easier on her part, wouldn't it?
It probably would have been, yeah.
No one thinks of the makers. Oh, and what do we have here?
This was the uncle character, which was one of those occasions where you think, well, why have they made an action figure of him? Because he's not that significant. But he's one of those few characters that the guys who make the action figures decided to do one of him and then miss out a lot of the more interesting ones. But I just put him in because it was the next thing that I did on the show. It was a bit of a body padding to make him look a bit asymmetrical, a bit deformed.
Toya.
Yeah,
It's really silly.
it is really silly.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
no handbars.
No handbars, I know. And then the next one after that was the gangers for the Rebel Flesh, doing the acid suits, as we call them. And this is just a fitting photo. This is like first attempt at a fitting with just card shapes and a basic jumpsuit, just to kind of look at proportions. And this is for the costume designer Barbara Kidd was on the show, and it was a real privilege to work for her because she'd done costume on some of the classic episodes like Pyramids of Mars, Genesis of the Daleks, Frontier in Space.
The episode of The Gangers was a great episode because were you ever privy to behind the scenes, why were they mining acid? And what does it do?
I have no idea.
They wanted to
Give me the
relive
answer to
the
this.
It gives you a reason to wear a costume like
I
that.
guess, like we need to have duplicates. It's been billions of dollars so we can mine the acid from the earth. What do you have here?
So here we are on set in Cardiff Castle, as usual. Very popular location on the show. So just the same actor, same costume, but just in its finished state, and a few other shots there.
Very good. Nice.
And moving on, this is just showing how they looked with the visor fully up. I don't know if you ever saw it in the show, I can't remember if you did, but they had this system where the visor could kind of fold down behind you or be pulled up. Next. And that's the lovely Caroline, who is the costume designer's assistant, who has since gone on to be costume designer on Downton Abbey.
Oh, excellent.
So yeah, she started out assisting Barbara Kidd on Doctor Who. And this is, I can't remember the actress's name, but she was great fun to work with. Yeah, so that was that one.
These are great behind-the-scenes photos. It's truly cool. These are things nobody else has seen. This is a Tumblr Fest exclusive. You're seeing these cool pictures that have not appeared on Facebook yet.
And here's the costume in the Doctor Who Experience exhibition in Cardiff. Nice to see it having a bit of life beyond its use in the show.
Oh, what's this?
Yes.
Creepy doll.
Creepy dolls, one of my favourites.
You're the reason I couldn't sleep.
This was a nice one to do because I got to do heads, and I got to do the kind of scary bit, which I don't want to get to do quite often. It's Millennium that does that and does a great job of it. But on this one, I got to do the heads, so I was quite pleased.
You managed to make a monster that's nearly as scary or more terrifying in some ways than even the Weeping Angels.
Oh, controversial.
Yes.
Very controversial.
I can be thrown back in time or it can be turned into one of those dolls. Yes,
That's pretty good.
This was like a clay shape that was done early on, and I sort of realised that this was a bit too sort of lifelike, and it seemed to me that the simpler and cruder you went with the shape, the more effective they were, really.
Well, that's one of the things, the Night Terrors dolls having, they truly not having faces, and the Daleks don't have faces.
Yeah.
When an enemy has a face that it's difficult to empathize with, it makes it even more terrifying.
And the same with the eyes. We tried putting eyes in them, like fake glass eyes, and actually they seemed to be a bit more scary when you just had a completely blank hole and you weren't quite sure what was in there. So the kind of challenge with those was trying to make them look really crudely made and really primitively painted, but to give them a sense of age, like the paint's cracking away and you can see the wood underneath.
That's scary.
That's a photo I took on set. I got to go on location with these, which was quite fun, seeing them walk around a creepy old dark house.
And don't worry, this is not like the Haunted Mansion ride. They're not going to follow you home.
Aw, take all the fun out of it.
And that's then on display in the exhibition.
Oh.
And another shot there, yeah. Enough of that.
Okay, and then
Handbox.
handbox. I love the handbox. Who here loved the episode The Girl Who Waited? Make some noise if you like the episode The Girl Who Waited. All right.
Okay, so this is the clay shape for the breastplate and a rough fiberglass shape for the head. We made the heads a bit smaller later on, but this was the early stages of it, but the whole job happened in about 2.5 weeks. Here we are in the costume store in Cardiff at the old Upper Boat Studios. The production's moved away from there now, but that's in the old Upper Boat costume store, fitting on the girls who were wearing them. And that's the lovely Barbara Kidd in the background, the fantastic costume designer on the show. This one, they were originally going to have jackets to denote different kind of functions.
Oh, really?
And this was just looking at a fabric for the jacket to see if we liked it. And actually, that idea was just abandoned for no particular reason. It just seemed a bit unnecessary, really. So that's how come there's a fabric on half of it in that one.
But that looks very similar, though, to the fabric that Amy wore in her artwork.
Quite possibly, yeah. Here we are in the Millennium Centre, Cardiff, another popular filming location for Doctor Who. You can tell because of the carpet, they couldn't cover up the carpet.
There's the amazing art.
which we put together in about a day, I think. There it is on a stand in the workshop. And of course the idea being it's patched together from bits of old handbots that's been smashed up by Amy.
And at the bottom there, is that a bit of the coat that wasn't used in the material there?
It could well be, yeah. And the back shots, and actually you can tell we were working on Judge Dredd at the time because the small panel on the back there is a bit of Judge Anderson's back armour, I think.
Oh, by the way, he did the armor for Judge Dredd and the Chief Justice in that little movie, Judge Dredd.
Here's a photo I took in the Millennium Centre with them all in their shutdown, their kind of powered down position.
Cool. Looks like they're praying.
And then moving on to the Christmas special that year, I got to do some armour for 3 characters. I'm not quite sure what to call them, but we called them the Tripod Troopers, but I don't think that was their official.
I don't know if they had a title, actually.
Thank you, the Androzani Harvesters. No wonder we didn't call them that, yeah.
That's what I said. Yeah, Androzani Harvesters.
Yeah. So that's the clay sculpt. The previous one was a sketch I did to show the designer what I thought might work out well, and he agreed, thankfully, so I just went ahead and worked from my own drawing on that one. And there's the clay sculpt for the helmet, and the clay sculpt for the breastplate, and again, it's the same process as the Time Lord soldier here. It's all sort of started life as a lump of clay and then goes through a mold making process and ends up being vacuum formed.
Well, I was thinking, Robert, after seeing some of these, it's an awful shame that he did not end up working on the new Ant-Man movie. Because don't you think he would have been a great Ant-Man costume?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And here they are on set. It was a night shoot in the forest on the outskirts of Cardiff, so it wasn't real snow, of course, but it was quite cold that night. So there's all 3 of them from the back. And the lovely Bill Bailey as the lead
Great character.
and the lovely Paul Paisley as the tall skinny one. And from the same story, we did Matt's spacesuit that he hurriedly puts on back to front in an airlock. And it was a bit of an unfortunate job because it was a spacesuit that looked quite good when you had it on the right way round, but of course you never see it the right way round in the show. And having been told, no, there's only one, you only have to make one, there'll only ever be one, and then a few days before filming, actually we need 2. So we had to hurriedly cobble together a second one for that airlock scene. And here's Matt looking very comfortable in it.
Oh, yes. Oh, the awkward mask.
Oh, Matt.
Oh. I don't think I've ever seen a photo of him.
That's one of the lost episodes of Doctor Who.
It was rather saucy for that episode.
And spicy.
Having not got to work on any of David's episodes, I was quite pleased to actually get to make a costume for him for a sports relief thing for BBC. That's quite
There's a statue from the...
And then these we did the, we called it the Pioneer Woman and Boy statue for the Angels in Manhattan episode.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
That was quite a nice one too. Not a costume this time, but just a full-size sculpture.
I saw that one, yeah.
And there's a shot of it on location in Cardiff.
That's quite lovely.
That's quite a fun one to do. And of course we had to do different interchangeable arms and hands because they start off holding hands and then the position changes slightly and they do creepy stuff like that. And moving on to the 50th show.
Who here can agree that the 50th was pretty good? There are many people, many writers and producers involved, but a great deal of it was due to this man here. So give him a round of applause.
Well, I'll take a bit of a short bit you see of the Time Lords anyway.
No, Robert, shows what you did.
So this was costume designer Howard Burton entrusted me with the job of bringing the Time Lords up to date for this story. We knew that we couldn't use the existing 1976 onwards version with the big collar and the robes I was showing people how to make earlier, because the director had specified that he didn't want the big clumsy fiberglass collars. So we knew we had to do a new look, and thankfully Howard entrusted me with the job of refining and developing that look. So he chose the colour palette, bought a load of fabric, so we kind of looked at different references. And what I ended up doing was looking at every previous style of Time Lord robe and trying to bring all those elements together and give it a look of detail and interest that still kept a lot of the silhouettes and shapes from the previous ones, but just brought them up to date a bit. So I hope people think it works. This is like an early prototype where we just played around with photocopies, and here are some of the collars hanging up to dry, having been painted. The collars we did in waterjet cut aluminium. This is Andragar's breastplate, which was a kind of leather thing with other leathers woven through it. Foil leathers, printed leathers, and then the belt had other kind of belts woven through it. So they were quite sort of complex things in a way, really. I hope people like them. Thank you. This is the lovely Louise, who also is sometimes an angel, sometimes she's a handbot, and on that day she was a time lady.
It looks like she could be whatever she chose. So is that her? Is that?
Oh yeah, very versatile. And here's Andragar just outside the costume trailer. I just managed to catch him for a quick photo there. And his robes have got a different set of symbols down the side. They've got the new style. And here are the new style Chancellery Guards with a couple of Time Lords still outside the studios. So this is what you would have seen had it not been too dark. These guys, which I was quite pleased with, because I thought they were quite faithful to the original ones. Oh, they had matching gloves. I couldn't bring the whole costume of those, but I could bring the gloves and the helmet.
And what else is going to show? More slides or more of the things?
We can touch on the general here. General.
Oh my, yes, of course you do.
That's Ken Bones there, the actor. I just gave him a sort of variation on the look, so he's got a kind of Rassilon seal in the middle of his chest, and we gave him a cloak which kind of echoed the cloaks that the original 70s Chancellery Guards had.
It seemed very important to you to bring back the seal of Rassilon to the show.
Yeah, I really like, oh yeah, that shows the cloak in a bit more detail. Yeah, I really wanted it to be something that linked the new series to the old series in a way that was very faithful to the original designs that have been so effective in the earlier show. There's a few soldiers lurking outside on the back lawn. And I managed to sneak a few photos on set, but they're not great because the light level was so low and they just took iPhone photos, but I just managed to get a few sneaky shots on set. I quite like that one with the light coming through the collar. And that brings us to the Night of the Doctor mini-sode.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for doing that. Now, when you were at TrigonCon 2 years ago and we were bringing up the 50th, you couldn't say anything at the time because obviously this had been filmed, and
Yes.
and you were very silent about this. You did a good job.
I have to do that, yes. I want to be asked to work on it again. Here we got to recreate the sisterhood of Khan, which I was quite excited about. It didn't quite go as well as I would have hoped for reasons which will become apparent, but you can see the gold sort of tabard that we did for the lead sisterhood. There's a bit of work in progress on that, a bit of construction where it doesn't look particularly atmospheric, but we also did the headdresses for them, which were direct copies of the ones that had been done for Brain and Morbius in the 70s.
Yes, indeed.
So we hurriedly made these over a bank holiday weekend for filming, and they were never used, unfortunately. Apparently the actresses got too hot. The day they filmed it was one of the hottest days of the year, and it was very hot on set, so they didn't want to wear the headdresses, which I think is a bit of a shame, because it's a direct link back to Brain and Morbius, really. And that brings us up to date to Capaldi. And
What is that?
that is one of those.
Oh! And does anybody in the eyes know what this is? Indeed.
So, again, it starts life as a clay sculpt, and it's basically a fiberglass helmet. There they are, all polished, freshly polished and waiting for delivery. This was like a collaboration. Millennium did the face that you saw inside the helmet when it opened, and we did two versions of the helmet, one like this and one with the front open and slid back to reveal the mask inside. Oh, that's the gauntlets. So, and there's a picture I took on set, again in Wales. We did the whole of the outfit for this one, and it was the robot face, which we didn't do. But
They're truly imposing.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, they were a good one to do, actually. Really nice to do. And we also did these leather tabards, which have the same kind of boar's head motif stitched on the front of them. His helmet doesn't fit at all well. I didn't make that. There's the open version with Millennium's mask inside. And of course the transition between the two was done with CGI. And that's a finished one on a stand in my workshop waiting for delivery. And there's a photo in action. So that was quite fun to do.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you. Currently, the robot of Sherwood was my favorite episode of the current series. Anybody else feel the same way? Yeah. That was quite good.
Yes. Yeah. I think we did Robin's hat as well.
You did Robin's hat?
We did Robin's hat, yeah. And the sheriff's belt buckle, that's not so exciting. And this is the Time Heist episode. I got to do the guards that were with the, what was the creature? Can't remember what. Oh, the teller, yeah. So these are the teller guards. Millennium did the teller, and we did the straitjacket that he wore. So again, it was a very collaborative thing between myself and Millennium. And for the guards, Millennium did the helmets, and I did everything from the neck down on the guards, which had to match in with their stuff.
How does the interaction work? Do you show each other measurements? Do you make the suit first and they make the mask? How does that work?
No, well, the way it happened on this one, they got a rough casting of the helmet out of their mold, sent it to me, and I built the armour in a style that hopefully matched in with their helmet. But I was quite pleased. I thought they looked quite fun. And I have a bit of a thing about costumes that I like the back to look as interesting as the front, so we built this kind of strange jetpack type arrangement on the back. And there they are in the Cardiff costume store and on set. I managed to sneak a few on-set photos there, though I'm not supposed to.
You never saw these photos.
Saw what?
And is that everything? Oh no, it's not. There should be more. I don't know why we've gone out of that there, but there's a few. Oh yeah, okay. There's the back again.
There's one of this ball.
And again.
Botox.
Very popular.
The Botox.
It's
Oh no, are we now moving backwards in time? Is it a timey-wimey thing going on?
Tiny one.
And someone reversed the polarity of the neutron flow up there.
where are they trying to go to?
We should be on to kill the moon now.
What number do you believe that should be on the disc?
I have no idea.
Neither do I. My people don't ask for stuff.
Well, anyway, after that one, we did spacesuits to kill the moon, which you can probably imagine.
She's fired.
I don't understand.
No, I have no idea. Oh, no.
No.
No, we're definitely moving backwards. Anyway.
Well, we just have a few minutes left, so hopefully we can see those.
Yes. Do we need to do some questions?
Why don't we do some questions? Q&A, and also, Robert, is it quite all right to encourage those that are in the costume contest to sign up? Do you want to give a hint of what some of the prizes you're providing may be?
Oh, right, okay. To supplement the lavish prizes provided by Mr. Spivey, I've brought along some copies of my costume sketches with little swatches of the right fabrics attached, so we'll throw those into the mix of prizes.
Oh, it's cool.
So, if you haven't joined the costume contest yet, you may wish to. 4 o'clock is the deadline. So as soon as you're done here, you might want to go to registration or find Remington to sign up for that. You have a question there?
Where do we meet for said costume contest?
Said costume contest is in said brochure at 5 o'clock in this room. So the closing ceremonies, the costume contest, and performance will be in this room. So let's see. You had a question?
Yeah. How did the actors in the handbot costumes see where they were going?
Good question. We did tiny little, I think they were about 1 millimeter drilled little pinholes in a little diamond shape in front of each of their eyes, which in long shots you don't see at all, and in the close-ups they took them out in post-production. But the girls in them were great. They coped really well, just having very minimal vision.
Yeah, who do the boys? The boys for the handbag.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that one. Not my department.
No, I didn't.
Me.
What's one of your favorite costumes that you've made?
I quite like him,
Yeah.
but I think I prefer the shiny ones.
Ooh, shiny.
This particular armor is awesome. Has certain resemblances to other sci-fi armor.
Yeah.
What would you say makes it Time Lord specific? You personally.
To me, what makes it's the way, well, it's got the seal of Russell on here, but also the way it relates to these ones, which relate to the earlier ones. So having the stripe down the front relates to the 70s ones. There's a double stripe down the trouser, which on these ones is very subtle, but on these ones it's the black and silver stripe. So even though it's not so obvious, there are little details in this which do link it back to the earlier Panopticon Guard armor.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. We have enough time to give out 2 prizes. So let's ask. How about a trivia question? Would you ask a trivia question from your show?
Ooh. Okay, that's a tricky one. Mine or just a general Doctor Who trivia question?
Anything Doctor Who related? Probably not Star Trek, because that'd be the wrong event. Okay. So, which is your favorite Dabo girl? Would not be a good one.
No? Okay. Maybe it's something relevant to making of props and monsters. Maybe the name of the sculptor who did most of the classic series monster masks.
That's tough, man. Okay, ask something easier.
Come on.
Easier one.
Yeah, who is it?
Okay, it was a sculptor called John Friedlander. who did the original Davros mask.
Of course.
And most of the Zygons and stuff like that. Okay, why don't you choose one? Mine are too obscure.
Here's an obscure one, but they may know. What is the name of the scientist who created K9? Oh. All right, you are correct. Come on up.
What you got?
And for that, you get a War Doctor action figure. All right, one more trivia question. Mr. John Green Adams, pass the mic to that young bloke. He knows quite a bit about this television program.
All right.
Quick like a monkey.
Quick like a monkey.
Quick like a monkey.
Dance like a monkey.
Dance.
Spot like that. Let me see. Since it pertains to an episode you worked on, in Night Terrors, what part of the body was the old lady complaining about? Me? You take the pick. You take the pick.
I'll take a pick. That young man right there.
Young lad.
The knees.
Yes!
It was the
knees.
knees.
All right. Come on up, young lad. You get a 10th Doctor-sized screwdriver. All right, thank you very much. If you've not already signed up for the costume contest, do so at registration. And now I'm going to ask you all to clear the room, and we're going to reset the room up for the costume contest and the performance. So in the meantime, I recommend going to hear, I believe, Louis Robinson performing, Crimson Crystal is playing, and the Science of Doctor Who will be in the castle, in the chapel. Thank you very much, everyone.